On this episode, I'm going to tell you the biggest lesson that I got from reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in like 2003 or something like that. Absolutely changed my life. I still think about it today, and it's something every realtor needs to think about every day also. What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 288 of the Massive Agent Podcast. We're talking Rich Dad, Poor Dad today, and my biggest lesson that I learned from it is probably not what you think. It's not what you think. You're going to really love this episode. I'm going to dive deep on something that actually matters, that has changed my life. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of looking at the world that has totally transformed my life, and I'm going to share it with you today. If you are new to the show, welcome. My name is Dustin Brohm, your host. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening so you don't miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, please do me a massive favor right now. Take out your phone, pull your phone out of your pocket real quick, look at it, and give us a quick rating or review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Spotify, Apple, Pocket Casts, Google, whatever. The reason why is not just for shits and giggles, all right? But because the more positive reviews and ratings that we get, the more that the podcast platforms will show the podcast to people who have not ever listened to it before, okay? It shows the podcast to new people. So if I've ever taught you anything, you've ever learned anything from the show, you've ever had any kind of value from this show whatsoever, give us a quick rating or review. If you're listening on Spotify, it's super easy. Just click on the main podcast page. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I made it even easier for you. You can just go to massiveagentpodcast.com/review. It takes you right to the page, leave a rating or a review. And thank you for helping us to organically reach more people. So in prep for the show today, I was looking back and I'm like, shit, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it was around 2003, maybe 2004, something like that. I was at a very low point in my life. I had just gotten fired from 2 jobs. I was working 2 jobs at the same time. I was busing and serving at one of my favorite restaurants in Salt Lake. By the way, just took my family there Sunday for brunch. Kind of crazy now that I think about it. Anyways, I was working there, loved that job. It was more of a social thing, like didn't pay the best, but it was fun. Got fired from that job, and then just a couple days later got fired from another where I was a customer service, not manager, but I was a trainer of customer service reps at backcountry.com. Loved that job as well. I was at a really low point in my life, and my mom suggested I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, she gives me this book, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I literally knew nothing other than it said rich in it. And that got my attention. I'm like, that would be nice. Being rich. Okay. If this will teach me what rich people know, then I will read it. Having no clue it was about real estate, having no clue about entrepreneurship, I just thought they'd like teach me something about how to be rich. Well, they did. But what I took away from it that I still think about every single freaking day is not what you think it is. But it's such a massively important lesson. And I think most people who read Rich Dad, Poor Dad maybe look past it, or it's not one of the major takeaways because it's not like, here's how to do this. It's not a how this or how that. It's a way of thinking. So before we jump into that, couple quick matters of business. I'm excited about this one. So last weekend, we did our very first Power Day here in Salt Lake, the Power Day workshop, where it wasn't quite a full day and a half. I almost did a spoiler. It wasn't quite a full day and a half. We did a full workshop, and then the night before we had a nice dinner at my house in my backyard, and it was super cool. We did some exercises, not like physical, like curling dumbbells and shit. I mean like some mental exercises. We did some work the night prior and to set the table for the next day. Well, I thought it was a huge success, and a lot of the success was we learned how to make it infinitely better the next time. And so I'm like, okay, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of effort. We have to do this again. And so I start thinking about, okay, when are we going to do the next one? And then my wife was like, oh, are you just going to do it once more? And I'm like, no, I want to do a few of them. So I'm like, well, shit, let's just launch 3 of them. So today we're announcing the next 3 Power Days between now and the end of the year. The next one's August 26th. The one after that is October 7th. And then the last one of this year is November 18th. All the details, all the pricing, all the information, All of that is over at powerdayevent.com. There's also a link in my Instagram bio to Power Day. There's very limited seating. Okay. Like the first one, these ones, there's very limited seating because of the nature of the workshop. We can only have 20 people maximum. And we're actually going to go above and beyond with these next three, provide more. We're going to have a videographer there. You're going to show up and leave with content. You're going to have professional photos, professional videos. I'm not going to spill all the beans, but if you're serious about investing in your future, you need to get to a Power Day between now and the end of the year. But you cannot wait. You cannot drag your feet because there's only 20 spots per date. You've got to grab it. So right now, to reward those of you who are taking action, you're going to get half off your tickets. Half off your tickets. But you have to go quickly. powerdayevent.com. Register if you can't make one day. If you're like, oh shit, I registered for the August, can't make it, we can push you as long as there's room to one of the later dates in the year. But just get your ticket as quickly as possible. In addition, the Massive Agent Society is open right now for new members. Now, if you are a society member, you always get the half off discount on Power Day tickets. No matter what, they do not expire. Society members always get that discount. Another reason you're going to want to join our coaching group right now today, while it's open for the next week, is we have a few new courses coming out. I'm doing a new course on AI. I'm doing a new course on, well, a couple other things. I'm not going to spill the beans quite yet, but society members get those for free. If you're not a member of the society, you pay full price. So you could simply join the society while it's open and save a shitload of money and learn and level up and network and get referrals. And it's basically this podcast live with you, interacting every single week and every day in our Facebook group. That's the society. That's the coaching group. It's so well-rounded. And if you are serious about growing as an agent, if you need tactics, if you need information, if you need guidance, if you need help with your mindset, with your belief, with getting rid of limiting beliefs, you need to join the Massive Agent Society. MassiveAgentSociety.com gets you in right now while it's open. We had one of our new members recently that they did their 7-day social media jumpstart videos. Okay, right when you join, we give you a roadmap. Do these things over the next 7 days. And within the first 3 days, they got a client. We had someone else that day 2, they got a client. Someone else day 5, they got, by the 5th day, they had 2 new clients, all by just doing these specific things that we give our new members to do. It's crazy. You could do it too. I don't know why the hell you don't. And I actually do know why. And stay tuned. Stay tuned because this episode is going to potentially change your life more than any tutorial, webinar, tactic, whatever. What I'm going to share with you today, what I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad, as long as you're open-minded and as long as you're willing to admit fault, as long as you're willing to take responsibility for where you fucked up in the past and where you're still fucking up with the way you think about things, you could absolutely thrive from this point on. Because once I learned this concept, it kicked over the first domino into what has become an incredible life that I am currently building. I feel like I'm still in the starter phase. I'm still in the first inning, maybe the second inning. But my God, what I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad started it all. So I'm curious. Send me a message on Instagram at Massive Agent. Let me know if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, how long ago it was, and what your biggest takeaway was. All right, so send me that message before I jump into this because I don't want to cloud your judgment. Like, I'm really curious before I jump in and tell you my biggest takeaway. What was yours? What do you remember about Rich Dad Poor Dad? How long ago did you read it? Did you just read it once? So I read it the first time from a physical book. Then about 5 years later, I listened to the audiobook. Actually, it was a CD. I got the freaking CD from the library, the audio CD, and listened to it in my car back when CD players in cars were things. Do they even make CD players in cars anymore? Seriously. Serious question. I haven't had one in a car for a long ass time. Well, anyways, but it's one of those books you keep coming back to. And every time I do, I learn something new. But every time I hear what I'm about to share with you, it hits me harder, but it hits me different every time. And the meaning gets deeper. So Rich Dad Poor Dad first taught me what entrepreneurship was. It taught me that I could be in business for myself. For the first time in my entire life, Rich Dad Poor Dad showed me that running your own business, owning your own business, this pathway to wealth, pathway to success, pathway to being rich, so to speak, was actually attainable for any person. This sounds weird, but I really thought that success and wealth and being rich was for a different type of person, because I didn't have any rich or wealthy people in my life up until that point. I think I was 19 or 20, I believe, when I first read it. And I didn't have anyone super rich or successful. Like, I knew of some people, but I wasn't connected to them. I wasn't able to talk to them. So I just thought those were different. That was a different type of person. And I never really thought wealth, success, running my own business, building something as an entrepreneur could even be in my future. I didn't know it was possible. So Rich Dad Poor Dad opened my eyes to that, and specifically in real estate. So it showed me, holy crap, I can own my own business, and here's how I can strategically do some things in the real estate world without even being an agent, like just with wholesaling, with flipping, with, buying and holding rental properties that could eventually, I could build my way to wealth and success on my own terms as my own business owner. That was super crazy. But that wasn't even the biggest takeaway. As life-changing as that was, showing me, holy shit, this world of entrepreneurship is available to you if you just do the right things, if you just go down the right path. That was monumental. But even bigger than that, the biggest thing that I took away from Rich Dad Poor Dad is when they talk about the difference between the broke mindset and the success mindset, specifically with when there's something that you want to buy, there's something you want to invest in, there's something you want to spend money on. Maybe it's a vacation, a car, a house, a training program. You want to get a ticket to Power Day. Well, how many of you guys, when I was mentioning Power Day or joining the society while it's open, or anything I've ever talked about before, and you're like, oh, I'd love to. Look, I know this is the case because I get your fucking messages. I would love to, but I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Up until that point, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was one of those people who instantly, I defaulted to, I would love to do this, but I can't afford it. I would love to go on that vacation, but I can't afford it. I would love to buy this thing, but I cannot afford it. Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me that instead of saying I can't afford it, to ask, how can I afford it? That changed my life, because I didn't realize it at the time. But when you look at something like your ticket to Power Day, oh, I can't afford it, your brain just shuts off. You no longer are thinking creatively. It's the easy way out. It's the easy way out. And sometimes, yeah, money's tight. I get it. I've certainly been there. But what you're doing is you're also telling yourself that you're not resourceful enough to figure that shit out. That you're not capable of making a little extra to make that thing that you want possible. Spending money on something, like you want to go buy some flashy watch or this or that, or a new set of golf clubs, which, trust me, like, by the way, my wife just got me a new Paradigm driver and I'm fucking beside myself. Like, oh my God, I think it's the first golf club I've bought new. I've always just bought like used set of clubs before. Anyways, like, you want a new set of golf clubs, but you certainly don't need them, right? It's a nice thing, and it's a depreciating asset unless you're a professional, right? If you're a pro, it's a tool of the trade. You need it. But when you say I can't afford it, it's like game over. End of story, can't afford it. If you just ask a different question, how can I afford that thing? Now your brain turns on. Now you start thinking, okay, if I need $1,000, if I need $10,000 to accomplish this, if I need to invest in my business and hire someone, it's going to cost this amount per month. How can I come up with an extra $5,000 a month to do this? How can I come up with an extra $1,000 for that Power Day ticket? Well, I guess I could do this. I could do more of this. I could do this. I could sell this. I could, and you start thinking creatively. It's so subtle, but it's such a big fucking deal. When you say you can't afford it, your brain turns off. When you ask, how can I afford it? Your brain turns on and you start thinking creatively of how to make it happen. You become resourceful instead of resourceless. Huge difference. It's subtle, but absolutely huge. So ever since then, I would catch myself, reverting back to the old me where I'd think, I would love to do that. I'd love to hire this person. I'd love to go to that conference. I would love to hire this coach. I'd love to join this mastermind, but I can't afford it. I've spent over 6 figures on masterminds, coaches, trainings, all of that over the last couple of years. Like over the last 2 years, I've spent over 6 figures. Every single time, right before, I tell myself, holy shit, that's 10 grand. Oh my God. Or that's 30 grand for the year. I can't afford that. And then I catch myself and I remember Rich Dad, Poor Dad and the lesson it taught me to ask, how can I afford it? So then I start thinking, okay, if I need to come up with $30,000 over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever, right? Let's call it $10,000. How can I do that? Is there something that's just sitting around that I could sell that I don't need? Is there, could I take a loan out on this if it's really pressing? How can I earn some extra money? Can I do a little bit more activity and sell an extra house every month? What's crazy to me, and I'm going to put this in perspective here a little bit further. When you are investing in yourself, if it's buying something, that great. We all have things we want to buy. Awesome. You want to get a new MacBook. You want to, upgrade your laptop. You want to get a new iPhone. You want to do whatever. Maybe you just want to piss it away on some fucking watch. Awesome. But when it's for your business, when it's something that you want to do for your business, I'm telling you from experience, there is literally no better ROI on the planet than reinvesting your money back into your business and into yourself. I remember being told that, and I thought, well, that's nice because you just have a bunch of money and you can just afford a $30,000 a year mastermind. Must be nice, right? I remember thinking that, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. How can I afford that shit? Well, once I figured it out the first time was with a fitness training program. My wife and I both did. It was $7 grand. And for us at the time, that was huge. But I'm like, you know what? How can I afford it? I know I want to do it. There's certain things that I know that I don't know that I need to figure out. And there's the solution right there. If I need to invest to get the answers and the accountability, I'm going to fucking do it. We did, and we got the results like that because we took it more seriously than anything else because we made a big investment. Well, then I start thinking, okay, cool. Then this mastermind, Avengers Mastermind comes up. It's 30 grand a year. And I'm like, I really need to do this. I need to be in the room with these people, with Cody Sperber and Pace Morby and Aaron Wagner and, all these people, right? With, Dan Fleischman. I need to be in the room with these people and other entrepreneurs like them. It's about 30 grand. Can't afford it. And I remember that time that I almost used that excuse with the fitness training, but then that changed our lives forever. We're going to live years longer, and we have so much more energy. And I'm telling you, I've made so much more money as a result of just getting in great physical shape and taking care of my nutrition and health. It's mind-boggling how directly correlated they are. It's actually common sense, but we don't think it is when we're ignoring that shit, right? It's very easy to ignore. Anyways, so I'm like, well, I remember when we first invested that $7 grand in the fitness program, we took it very seriously and we got results so much, like so fast. And we learned how to create a lifestyle of health and fitness, changed our lives and our kids, because our kids are now witness to all of that as well. And we've been teaching them how to live a life of health and fitness. So I'm like, okay, I know I need to figure out a way to make it happen. So I did. I joined the mastermind. The people that I was around, the things that I would learn from those people, the connections, the investment opportunities, and on and on and on, was so much more. The ROI on that was so much. It was infinitely beyond just the 30 grand that we invested. So once again, there's another lesson. Okay, this is it. This is the path. When you want to invest in something that's going to bring more business because you're growing yourself, that's where you need to put your money. Let me phrase this in a different way. I remember before I started to invest in training and masterminds and programs where I would be investing in me and my business. Before I thought, I have $10,000. What should I invest it in to make the most money with this $10,000? Now, first of all, if you're thinking, how can I make more money with this money? You're thinking the right way to a point. Okay. At least you're thinking, how do I use my money to make more? That's good. But then you fuck it all up when you think, which stock should I buy? Here's what I mean by that. If you have $10,000 and you find an investment that over 2 years is going to give you a 30% return, okay? Or let's say 1 year, okay? A 30% return in 1 year. I think you'd agree that is a ridiculously good, ridiculously awesome return on investment. That's a great investment, right? 30%. Well, that means your 10,000 is now 13,000. Okay, great. Awesome. Now, if you did it again and again and again and again, that becomes meaningful. Yes. What if it's 50% return? Maybe, let's say you can double your money in a year. You can turn 10,000 into 20,000. Awesome. Usually it's not over a year. It's over 5 years. But over 5 years, you're going to double your money. Okay. That 10,000 becomes 20,000. Well, what if you invested that 10,000 into a mastermind or a training program or hiring a coach or systems for your business or hiring some employees or some help, a graphic designer, a video editor, so on and so forth, right? And those activities, that investment of 10 grand, and by the way, it's going to be a lot less. Let's call it 5,000. You make that investment and then you get an extra 2 deals over the course of the year. Well, how much is an extra closing? What is that? An extra $10,000, right? So you get an extra 2 over a whole year and there's an extra 20 grand. Do you guys see my point? When you invest in yourself and into your business, the return is massively more than an investment return. This is why you need to be going to trainings, going to workshops, going to masterminds, going to conferences, hiring coaches and trainers. If you are thinking that this is self-serving, that I'm talking about this while I'm telling you you need to invest in getting your ass to Power Day in Salt Lake, to our workshop, where you leave having worked with me one-on-one on what your business needs, like we're going to build your business together in person. If you think that's self-serving, you're missing the point. The reason that I'm offering these things is because I understand the power of them. I understand that's where the real investment return is. I know what I want that for myself, and then I see the business opportunity for me to help you to get that for yourself. Do you understand that? If it's not my program, find another one, for God's sakes. But stop trying to figure out, how can I take this $1,000 or $5,000 and invest it in Tesla stock or in EXP stock or in Microsoft or whatever the hell. Invest it back into your business, invest it into the conference, the training, the mastermind, the coach. The return is infinitely more, and just do the math. Just do the math on it. Even conservative math, investing back into your business is going to be so much more, because what you learn from that workshop or that mastermind, you never forget. Okay. You never just go back to the way you were. You now know those things and you have those tools that you didn't have before. And so now you're not just selling an extra house a year. Maybe the next year you sell an extra 10 houses and then an extra 20, and then you bring on 3 extra agents and now you're selling an extra 50 houses. And you see, just because you went to that one training and learned that one little thing, or you got the belief that you could do those things. And I look back to Rich Dad Poor Dad at that concept of, rather than saying I can't afford it, ask how can I afford it? We had someone come to Power Day last weekend who, I think most people would agree they could not afford to come. However, I asked, was it worth it? Did you get your money out of it? He borrowed the money temporarily. He borrowed the money. He had a couple closings coming up, but he borrowed it. And he said, dude, this was the best. This was exactly what I needed. And I'm going to sell so many more houses and make so much more money as a result of this small investment. And I looked at him and I'm just like, in my head, I'm thinking, no shit. But he just hadn't, he was on that part of the journey that I had many years ago. But he's still there. He's still learning that lesson for himself, and he can never forget that. So now he figured out, he was resourceful and figured out how to get a ticket to Power Day. He got his ass there. He came. He took it very seriously because it wasn't just like, piss away money. If a ticket is like, oh, whatever, if I don't show up and lose the money, whatever, you're not going to take it seriously. If it's a $20 ticket, you're not going to take it seriously. You're probably not even going to show up. So there's value in it being a higher ticket cost, right? You take it more seriously. He did. And it's changing his life as a result. He's never going to go back to the way he was before. It's really cool to see people that are just a few steps behind where I was, following that same path. That is why I keep coming back and doing these podcasts and doing social media videos and, jumping on our society trainings every week and being involved in the Facebook group. And just all I do all day long is talk to and help and mentor agents. That's all I do. That's all I do. And I freaking love it because I remember how helpless I felt when I was struggling. Aside from a few mentors that I had that I met on Google Plus, these real estate bloggers who we would just message. Like I never spoke to any of them. I think I've only met one of them in person, but they would just encourage me from afar and they led by example. I saw what they were doing and I just did that and I started to have similar results. I can't imagine not having someone to hold my hand. So this is what keeps me coming back. This is the phase of my career that I'm in that I absolutely love. And I want to work with you. If this speaks to you, find a way to get to Power Day. The reason we're doing these in person and not just virtually is so that they're actually impactful. So you actually implement. So you actually show up and take it seriously. And so you can actually get to know people in person. So I can actually sit down with you and say, hey, what are you struggling with? Oh, really? Well, have you considered this? Well, let's just do this. Let's just, boom, boom, boom. We can't do that all just through a webinar. So get your ass to Power Day. Get your ass in the Massive Agent Society. And if it's not one of those offerings, find something else that you've been wanting to do from someone who you look up to, who has results and a lifestyle that you want. And get in the room with those people. And if it takes investing your money to do it, be resourceful enough to figure that shit out. Don't be irresponsible, right? But we're not talking irresponsible amounts of money here. We're talking about thinking differently so that you stop shutting your mind off and just thinking, I can't afford it, done. Guess what happens to the people that consistently tell themselves I can't afford it? Guess what happens? Nothing. Jack shit. When you tell yourself I can't afford it, what you're doing, first off, you're saying you don't trust yourself to figure it out. You don't trust yourself to make that money back. You don't trust yourself to put in the work to get the return on that investment. So you're killing yourself every time you do it. You're killing your self-esteem. You're killing your confidence. You're killing your business, your career. But when you say you can't afford it, what you're also saying to yourself is that you think business is just going to fall into your lap. You're thinking, well, I don't need to invest back into my business because it's just going to happen for me. Well, is it? Is it? Because if it is, wouldn't it be? The reason I'm bringing this shit up, and if I'm stepping on your toes, good. You just haven't thought about it this way before. It sounds so ridiculous when you hear me say it out loud. When I'm basically just turning the mirror around and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. You're saying I can't afford it. You're saying I don't need to do anything additional. I don't need to invest back into my business. I don't need to actually spend my money to get results. It's just going to happen. Well, how has that been working out for you? I'm telling you right now, and I've told you many times before, and I'll say it many, many more times because this is the hack. This is the cheat code. As soon as I opened up my wallet and started investing large amounts of money into my business, into self-development, into learning new things and getting in rooms with people that were already at the place I wanted to be, once I started to spend those dollars, I made more money than ever. I've made more money since I started to invest in those things than I ever did prior. When I was thinking, well, I can't go to that conference, or, well, I don't know about this. I don't know about that. I'm going to hold on to that $1,000. I'm going to hold on to this $3,000 here because I don't know. Guess what wasn't happening? Much of anything. Like, I wasn't making money. I wasn't growing. I didn't start to double and triple and quadruple my income, literally, until I started to invest in masterminds, trainings, coaches. That's the hack. That's it. So, unfortunately, some of you are going to rationalize why that's bullshit, or why, whatever. Right? You're going to take some issue with me. You're going to come up with some excuse of this, that, and the other thing. Eventually, you're going to learn that lesson. I hope that you learn it now versus a year from now, 10 years from now, or on your deathbed. Eventually, you will learn that lesson. If you're open-minded enough, do it. Make the investment. Trust yourself enough to put in the work to get that return on that investment. As soon as you do, you start to grow, you start to get results, you start to attract the resources and the people and the opportunities that you need to start earning that extra income, to start getting those extra deals, selling those extra houses, and getting extra income streams that you're not even considering right now. That happens once you start to invest into yourself. You start investing, you start earning a bunch more. That's it. It's as true as gravity. Some of you will choose to believe me. Some of you won't. Some of you will believe me later. Some of you will go out on a limb and try it for yourself now. Awesome. I'm here for you. If you want me to be, just send me a message. I'm happy to share whatever. I am here to help you. I'm here to serve you. This is why we're doing Power Day in person 3 more times this year. But don't drag your feet any longer. Grab a ticket, powerdayevent.com. I don't know what else I can do for you. Do you need me to fly to your city and grab your ass out of bed and take you to do certain activities and to train you and to do? Is that what needs to happen? You're not really expecting that to happen, right? And if replace me with whoever else, right? Do you really need Gary Vee to do it? Do you really need Andy Frisella to do it? Do you really need insert whoever the hell? Do you really need them to do it for you? No. You have everything in you right now that you need to succeed at the highest level. But you just need to crack it open. You need to get it out of you. And investing in yourself is what starts that process. It starts the flow of abundance and gets you the hell out of this world of scarcity that you're stuck in. The longer you continue to tell yourself, I can't afford it, or I'm not going to invest in that new system. I'm not going to hire the videographer. I'm not going to have an editor. I'm not going to go to Power Day. I'm not going to join the coaching program. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save my money. You're not saving shit. Not doing the things that you know will move the needle in your business is much more expensive than actually making the investment. Thank you, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Thank you, Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter, for writing that incredibly life-changing book. They wrote it in 1997. I was a junior? I think was I in junior high? So I graduated high school in 2001. So I was in 9th or 10th grade when they wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's wild. It has changed so many millions of lives. And hopefully my takeaway and you listening to this perspective today, and then the action you take as a result, will change yours. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your freaking day. I hope to, if you want to work together, if you want my help, I am here. You just have to reach out and grab it. You have to take the first step. You have to be willing to invest, because I'm not just going to jump into your lap. No one is. No one that you want to help you is ever going to jump into your lap and say, hey, can I help you grow your business today? It doesn't work that way. No one worthwhile, no one worth having as a mentor or a coach is ever going to do that, because they're busy, they have their own lives, and they have other people that they're helping who are investing and are taking steps and running and getting the work done. Thank you guys so much. Make sure if you haven't checked out BAMX yet, BAMX it's a platform that doesn't just tell you what to do. There's all these little online courses that tell you exactly what to do. Eric Simon, the broke agent, did an Instagram course. He's like the best in the industry with Instagram. There's a course in there on Instagram. There's green screens. There's objection handling from Tom Toole. There's Canva 101. Well, it's not 101. It's like Canva Mastery from Coffee and Contracts, all for as little as $10 a month. Go to massiveagentpodcast.com/BAMX and use the code MASSIVE to get 10% off. BAMX is an amazing platform with some incredible information. But again, some of you will decide, I'm going to save that money, and then you'll piss it away on your next 5 visits to Starbucks. Have a great rest of your day.